Okay, our next guest. They really don't come any more adorable than my next guest. A classic TV legend, she has appeared on some of the most beloved shows of all time. Here's Lucy, Peter Gunn, Dr. Kildare, Make Room for Daddy, The Wild Wild West, Hogan's Heroes, That Girl, Arnie, a Lost classic, Petticoat Junction, Gomer Pyle, The Brady Bunch, Love American Style, Newhart, Chips, Murder, She Wrote, Full House, Too Close for Comfort, and Policewoman. With regular roles and appearances on The Andy Griffith Show, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Designing Women, and my personal favorite, The Doris Day Show. She's appeared in legendary feature films like the original version of Little Shop of Horrors, Gremlins, and its sequel, The New Batch. What she did. Okay. With 6, you get Egg Roll, The Good Guys and the Bad Guys, The Cheyenne Social Club, and a Guide for the Married Man, among others. Her TV movies include the groundbreaking Sex and the Married Woman, Secrets of a Mother and Daughter. She is also an accomplished voiceover artist who has contributed her talents to favorite animated shows like Scooby-Doo and Josie and the Pussycats, playing Melody, the hot one.
Yes.
And she will next be seen in the TV movie All I Want for Christmas. Into this mix, she writes a weekly column for the Tolucan Times. Ladies and gentlemen, you know her as the one and only Jackie Joseph Warren.
I didn't remember that I did all that.
Yeah.
But almost, in fact, Herbie is on my Facebook, and I found an old photo that was a billboard of a movie show. I used to show movies at ABC in the morning, and great mommy job, because 8:30, 10:30 you're home, and I could drive my kids to school and stuff. But they made a billboard just of me throwing money, because we gave money if people guessed songs. So anyway, I put that little picture in, and he said, if you feel like bringing that or anything else. So I have a big sack full of 3 scrapbooks that are things I forgot. But I want to let you know that they're there.
Excellent.
Now, because of all the loosiness of the day, and Frank, I love the way you say Lucille.
Thank you.
Lucille.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. One more time.
Lucille.
Right. We all say Lucy, Lucy, Lucy. But I'll tell you my Lucy experience.
Please.
Because it
fits.
just goes. It'll be scattered. The first time I'm aware of Lucy is that she came to see a show I was in 1958. Really. And it was called the Billy Barnes Review. And my boyfriend at the time, and then he was my husband in 1960, was Ken Berry. And she just fell in love with Ken's talent, and his talent, yeah. And he became a part of a workshop that she created at Desilu with a lot of other young people, and she really personally invested in their career. It was, you know, they all got on series or a chance to work, and so I know her from just being someone who came around and helped. She wasn't ever like a big star person. She was just a fan and someone who knew she could lift people up. So, okay, so that was that, knowing Lucy. And then I got to know her when Doris Day and I was on Doris's show for a couple of years, and another great mommy job.
Love that show. Love it. So cozy.
And,
Cozy show. It was a cozy show.
It was cozy.
It was very cozy.
Yeah, okay. She did. Doris had a little house and dogs on the set. It was really funny. But Doris and I somehow got involved in a mutual affection for animals. And we founded a group along with Richard Basehart and his wife called Actors and Others for Animals. And, thank you. And it's still with us. And so contributions are welcome. And in order to put the little organization out into the world of Los Angeles, we decided, well, we should have a little fair. And with, I think Ruth Buzzy and Joanne Worley were thinking up ideas, like we can have a sandwich section and then a ritzy rummage section, and then Doris Day would be an auctioneer, and this was all this little school in North Hollywood. And Lucy volunteered to sit in one of the classrooms and take pictures with anybody who wanted to pay $5. And little Lucy was her camera person. So she had a Polaroid camera, and there was Lucille Ball, and we all were running around doing our stuff. And we were totally surprised that beyond a neighborhood, that 16,000 people came to this little school. And we started getting volunteers from people who were there to help us, because Tom Harmon, and he was making sandwiches with his family, and Chris Nelson, who was married to Ricky Nelson at the time, was also part of it. And they were running and getting Polaroid photo, filmed, and Lucy and little Lucy were in this hot schoolroom with person after person taking Polaroid pictures. And I think that somebody was going to faint at some point. It was such an opportunity. I think the stars were not as accessible, and for someone to suddenly take a picture with somebody, it was more major than we thought, and that became a great fundraising tool in our future. Where instead of my kids' grammar school, they had the Columbia Ranch, and the whole studio was where we would do benefits and had lots of stars. But Lucy really helped us kick it off, and little Lucy was her helper. And hi. And another Lucy experience I had was, I did her show. And
which show did you do? Which was Here's Lucy?
what show
Or was
did
it
I
the
do?
Lucy?
I can't.
Well, it was the one with the kids.
Yeah, Here's Lucy. Okay.
And the perfectionist that you were talking about. I had a little part where little Lucy was in a car with her boyfriend, and I had a baby or something.
yeah.
Gave her a baby to hold. Whatever it was a little moment. Then I left, and then I came back. But before the show, and I can't tell you how every nuance and every detail, Lucy went around to everybody, and she went with me, and she said, okay, when you say the blah blah blah, you're looking up here, and then you do a take over here, and then she knew exactly. I mean, it was meticulous. I mean, she had that with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That it was like there wasn't a second or a flicker that wasn't. I want to say premeditated, but that sounds so sinister. But it was totally mapped out. Nothing was just tossed aside, and I was so impressed with that. And well, I'm easily impressed. Lucille.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, talk a little bit about all the shows that you were on. Besides that, I mean, I'm just like a list. I mean,
Are you bored with Lucy?
not at all. But we want to hear about you. We want to hear about you.
Well, it was in the air. You just talk about what's there. I did go to little Lucy's wedding, which was very exciting, beautiful, and so I won't rattle on about.
No, but what were some of your favorite shows that you appeared on? I mean, you did the Andy Griffith Show. You were Ramona, correct?
Yes.
Ramona on the Andy Griffith Show, right? Yes.
On the Andy Griffith.
Ernest T. Bass's wife on the Andy Griffith Show.
No, not his wife.
Or,
His girl.
I was his
girlfriend.
pickup. He did pick me up. But her name was Sweet Romina, and she was a wallflower. And then Ernest T. took a liking to her, and also he liked to heft people. So, and at the end, you could just go crazy. And the most funny thing was that I followed him as he did a hopscotch. What do you call it? A frog leap? Leapfrog. Okay. Talk about senior moment. Frog leap over a tree trunk. Now, the first time we shot that, I had total abandon. I was wearing a little pink dress, and as I was going over the log, the end of my dress just hooked onto the back of the stump, and so I just kept going, and till my face hit the dirt, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're filming this. Can I get a copy? Because it was funny. I wasn't wounded, but the only thing you hate is when everyone is around you saying, "Are you all right?" And you're going, "I'm fine. I just fell on my face." And then we did it again, and a little more tentative, but I made it over. And fans are so interesting. You just don't know who's going to love what. And so many people love the Andy Griffith Show that they have great weekends in North Carolina, in Mount Airy. The people go there for 4 days, and they're all fans. That's what they do. And anyway, when I did the Andy Griffith Show, of course, it was a very bittersweet moment. It was so sweet because when I had never worked with Andy before, and I went in, and during the reading was very funny, and just at the end of the reading they were laughing and saying, where were you hiding? We're so thrilled to have you, and saying things that make me feel like special happy time. Then someone comes in the room with a radio and says, the president's been shot. So that's where I was when John Kennedy was shot. And then we had to break for the lunchtime because they had to figure out what to do. And I was having lunch with Aunt Bee, which was kind of silly. And also the lady who played the hostess at the party where we were dancing. And the two of them, I shouldn't even say this.
Okay.
They weren't as deeply upset as I was, I'll just say that. And which caught me off guard. But Howard Morris, who is such a fantastic performer, I was in awe of him from the shows, and we were just destroyed. And it's just a political thing, but we were destroyed, and because there was such a love for John Kennedy. And but it was decided that we kind of blocked out the shooting of the show, and then everybody was off for this long weekend of the funeral and all the national grieving, and then the next day we went to work and shot Ernest T. Bass in Love. So that what I really loved was how professional everybody was after that. Okay. But I don't mean to be morbid, it's just interesting.
Oh, it is? It's a historic moment.
That's what was going on.
Right.
That anyway. And then other cult things that I happened to do was there a 2-day job for Roger Corman in the Little Shop of Horrors, and where I played Audrey, the girl, and this was long before. Who would know? You got a 2-day job, and suddenly you're taking a bow at Barnes and Noble. Anyway, we had to memorize the job. The actor Jonathan Hayes, who played Seymour, and we ran through the movie. I mean, changing clothes in a carpenter's booth, and one of the big things I remember is because I was young and hadn't done a lot of movies. I had just finished the Billy Barnes show in New York, and I actually flew home to do this movie, which was about a detective, but while I was flying, they rewrote the whole thing about a plant that ate people. And because that's how Roger worked. And the only reason that we had to do it those 2 days just before midnight of 1959 was because in 1960, the Screen Actors Guild contract that offered residuals to actors started. So we were up against the wall to beat the residual contract. And that's what happened, Little Shop of Horrors. And I must say the makeup man, since I didn't do movies a lot, I thought these are the professionals and I should just let them do what they do. And I was noticing I was getting eyebrows that were very accentuated. And I thought, well, he's a professional, but I sort of said, have you done a lot of women's makeup before? And he said, no, I've just done monsters. I went, oh, okay. And then I felt it was legitimate to go to the ladies' room and take some tissue and bring it down. So that was Roger. And I want to bounce around.
Well, talk about, you did Make Room for Daddy with Danny Thomas.
I did.
You did? Okay.
But you know what's so fun about having a career like mine is that you don't really realize at the time that you're creating a body of work that anybody's even going to think about, much less care about so deeply and sweetly as the fans of that era. So being a player, you don't have this one show to talk about. You have all these shows to talk about because you're in and you're out, and you have this experience. I mean, there's so many, it's hysterical.
Well, your energy is so incredible. I'm sure everybody would agree. That, you know, we remembered that and likability is a theme throughout this series that I have. You are such a likable actress, and your giggle and your laugh and your personality. That's what we've loved over the years. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, tell us about how you got these roles initially, and then everybody just knew you, and they said.
Well, I think a lot of it was from being in the theater in the Billy Barnes show, because it was not very much little theater in time that day, and so it was like the only show in town, and it just happened to have been a wonderful show, and also in the cast was Bert Convy, and Anne Morgan Gilbert, you know, who was later on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and now she's in Getting On, being decrepit in a hospital. You know, there's this show called Getting On. Does anybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so wonderful, and it's not really about old women who are going to die, although they're the background of the story, but it's about the people who are the staff of the hospital. It's so brilliant, and it's this little show on HBO, and they work in a wing called the Billy Barnes wing of whatever hospital it is. Well, of course, all of us Billy Barnes people were just awestruck. And then that Annie was in the show, and anyway, it was a thrilling time. And then my husband, that's how we met, Ken Berry. And
You were actually, I think you were called Jackie Berry in that episode of Here's Lucy where you were at the drive-in.
isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's the only time that, and I didn't notice it till someone else told me.
Yeah.
Because every job that I had, I mean, I was so lucky to do that. But I thought it was a miracle or an accident. And I drove my poor agent crazy because every time she'd say, okay, you've got this, and I'd say, you're kidding, oh my gosh. And my head was saying, they couldn't get somebody, or it was a mistake. And, you know, confidence, it didn't come with my package. And so every show was just so astounding that I got to do it. And especially things like the Dick Van Dyke Show. And
Which I think, 3 episodes of that?
3 Dick Van Dyke Show. They didn't care. They just kept being different people all the time. But the funnest thing about that was that you do a table read at the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then they kind of sort of walk through the script a little about, they put it on its feet. And at the end of the day, Danny Thomas and Sheldon Leonard would come onto the set, and
They produced the show.
and you would perform the show in its kind of almost put together form. And they would be taking notes and figure out what works, what doesn't work. But when you said something in the show that was your line, and you saw Danny Thomas and Sheldon Leonard laugh, there's no description of how thrilling that is. It's more than the job. It's like people that you just, it fills up your heart and mind with glee for being in the same room with them, that you've entertained them. And you know, what a chance to do. You're a fan while you're an actor.
Sure.
Because there were a lot of amazing people that you worked with and worked for. And I don't know if you're familiar with Sheldon Leonard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he used to play a gangster, kind of a dummy gangster. But he was the most classy man. And I always thought that if
And educated.
very smart, and he dressed so gorgeously. I felt like he was a velvet person, you know. And I really, you know, luckily I didn't just start stroking him or something. But elegant people you get to work with, and a few inelegant people. But you know, my most favorite person that I worked with recently, a couple of years ago, and it was a little tacky, but I did the job anyway because it was union. And I got to work with Snoop Dogg. And I thought, I can't not do that. Even if it's something a little, something I wouldn't say automatically. But it wasn't too terrible. But I was in a little sketch, and I played an old lady. But just, I love Snoop Dogg. He was so sweet. And, you know, and also it looked so funny when I'm standing next to him. And I also knew that my girlfriends, I went to school in LA, so I have a bunch of good friends who are the same age I am. And they just died with glee that I was with Snoop Dogg. You know, it's like you never know what's going to be your swan song, but if you've got to have one, that's pretty funny. But you know, I still try and work, and I still find old things that tickle me no end. You know, I had this job once as I was a polar bear, and the reason I went after the job was I had heard about it from Alan Reed Jr. Alan Reed was a very good character actor who
Voice of Fred Flintstone.
This was prior to Fred Flintstone and after Life with Luigi, which was very early television. But he kind of got caught up in the blacklist. Just through relationships on some of the people who really were on the blacklist, and he couldn't get a job. A terrible, terrible time. But he got an
All this
idea.
edgy talk from you, Jack. It's a lot of edgy, dark talk from you tonight. It's very interesting.
Well, anyway, yes.
Funerals, assassinations.
I heard about this job while I was in college from Alan Jr. And it seems that he was going on a tour for 3 months and trying to sell a little white polar bear called Cutie Bear, and it had little red suspenders and a little hat with a bell on it. And he wanted to take somebody with him who would be in this bear outfit. And, you know, he also was selling a book and working with the Marines for Toys for Tots, and it was an entrepreneurial thing. And I'm thinking, that's going to New York. I've never been to New York. It was like beyond my real power to really get to New York. I was 21, And so I showed up for this audition, and it didn't even faze me that everybody else in the long line were all male dwarfs. And I'm standing there with a dwarf, and I'm wearing a Jack's dress, which at the time was a little jersey, tight little dress, and just thinking, I want to go to New York, and I got the job, which, and I was thinking, oh, how amazing. Well, think about it. He was going to travel 3 months with somebody. There was a 21-year-old girl, or so that is how I got to New York, and and also it's very stuffy. You made me fly on the plane wearing the polar belt, and unless it was a very long flight. And then I could take my head off, and the stewardess would walk it down the aisle. And you're sitting there with sweaty hair, and he also made you have white eyes. Is this a silly story?
No, right.
Better
than
people would
funerals.
look at the mask made by Walter Lantz and think, oh, that's a real cartoon walking around. So I'd have these white eyes and sweaty hair while I was flying across the country. And it was a silly but a wonderful time. And talk about somebody who would do anything. I'm still kind of that way. People say, why did you do that? And I'd say, because somebody asked. What will you really do? I'll do anything.
Like tonight, when I asked you to come here.
I was just coming to support Michael. But anyway, I'm talking too long. You have
No.
wonderful guests.
I just want to talk a little bit about the Doris Day Show for a little bit. How you got that role, and
well,
because you came into the 3rd season, correct?
Give me, do a big this, because I could talk about Doris.
I know.
But working with her on the set was fabulous. You didn't have to get to work till 12 o'clock because she thought it was dumb. Instead, you got there at 12. You worked till 7. She had from Art's Deli giant sandwiches brought in, and that when anybody had a break in time, like there's a lot of waiting either for the crew or for the cast, and you go and eat when you felt like it. And it was a wonderful way to work. And
why are there no shows like that today? I mean, the Doris Day Show was so cozy, family oriented, and there was so much love. Although it was the first show, I think, in TV history that every season was a different format. I mean, the first,
she
right?
kept one for 2 years when I did it.
Oh, there you go.
But it's funny. But she could do that because she was Doris Day. And felt, oh, I'm not doing so good on the farm. Let me go to the city. And she used to do fashion shows, as part of the stories. And I really thought it was hysterical, personally, because she was the only model in the whole fashion show. She would come out in another outfit, being in another scene. She's in the snow with a darling parka, and then she's bicycling through the park, and you think, that is some fashion show.
Yeah, right.
And a very patient audience.
Routine changes, right.
But she, good-hearted lady. And
Now, did she end the show, or what, did CBS cancel it, or did she decide to leave the series, or what?
I'm not really sure. I'm not truly sure. I know that she signed up for 5 years, or Marty signed her up, and
Her
then
husband,
Marty died, but she had to meet her.
Yeah.
And I think she's worked all her life. She was either singing or acting, and just wanted to stop.
Yeah.
Just wanted to stop. But she had her 90th birthday last year up in Carmel. It was unbelievable because she has fans from everywhere. And even though they know Doris does not attend events, that just knowing they'd be in town, there was like a big fundraiser by Doris's foundation. And so I went up there, and luckily because I knew her, and I got, I was staying at the inn, the Cypress Inn that is Doris's business, and so the fans were very sweet, and they, the thought that I would go over to her house for dinner it really elevated me like I was a big deal in the fan world. So,
You are a big deal, Kathy.
okay.
She is a big deal.
Doris, when I had dinner, I was telling her how great all these fans are. And all they want to do is let her know how grateful they are to her, that what she has given to them, and how she embellished their life just by her being her Dorisness, whatever it was. And they just want to be able to thank her personally for this essence of love they all had. So the last night where this big benefit was, we all were sitting at the tables and just about sitting down for dinner, and all of a sudden you heard, I think she's there. And then suddenly it was like you could feel the electricity in the room. It was the most stunning thing. And for me, I thought, I've got to get up so I can watch the people watching her. She came to the event. And
Which she had not planned to do. This was a surprise,
yeah,
right?
she just doesn't do that. I mean, her closest thing is on a few days before that, there's a golf course beneath where she lives up on a cliff, and people will meet at the 17th hole, and she will come out and wave. And, it's like a bobblehead. But that's their real closeness. But that she came to this event. You have never seen so many grown people with tears flowing down their face, all from love.
Sure.
All from love. And she stayed for the whole thing, and she waited while everybody got in a line, and she took pictures with people, which she hasn't had a picture. And suddenly the thing of not knowing what she looks like for so many years started coming on the internet. I would never show any of the pictures I had with Doris. That was just
For the moment.
a deal.
Yeah.
And she would just, once I took a bunch of pictures with her feeding her dogs in the dog kitchen, and she said, that's just for us. I said, absolutely. You just didn't betray your friendship. But now, I said, I want a picture with you. So in her house we took a couple of pictures, and it was like a sea change. It was just huge change in her life. She enjoyed all the serious love. It was just so much love. It just sort of.
Well, we have a lot of love for you tonight,
Okay.
Jackie. Thank you so much.